When you think small car, you often think compromise. Entry level, cut down, something you buy before you buy what you actually want. But I don't think a car's size is the problem, I think its spec is. Because when a car is done properly, it stops feeling, well, small. This is my Audi A1. I know this car. And for the last 5 and a bit years, it's proved to me that spec is hugely important. At least it is for me. I bought this car in late 2020 and it wasn't an impulse decision. I configured one from new at first. I spent far too long on the Audi website convincing myself that every option was sensible rather than indulgent. The plan was simple: buy something compact enough for London, easy to park, easy to live with, and specced in a way that didn't feel like a compromise. But reality kicked in. 2020 was not a good year for global manufacturing. So I had to start looking for an existing A1 instead. Luckily, I ended up with the exact model and spec I wanted. A few months old, with only 1,000 dealer miles. It was a 1.5 litre 35 TFSI Vorsprung, with every option ticked, 150 horsepower. Bang & Olufsen audio with the technology pack, contrast roof, leatherette and Dynamica interior, 18-inch alloys with sports suspension. It's not an S car, and on paper it's just an A1, but these specs make all the difference. What I like about this generation A1 is that it doesn't look timid. The previous one was softer and rounder, whereas this one is sharper, aggressive even. The wide grille, the pronounced shoulders, and the 3 slits in the bonnet are a nod to the legendary Sports Quattro from back in the day. With the Vorsprung trim level, which you can't spec anymore, you got the sportier bumpers, the side skirts, and the boot lid spoiler. This gives it a more assertive stance than the standard A1. And then there's the contrast roof. It sounds like a small detail, but visually it lowers the car, it gives it presence, it stops it looking too tall. And the diamond cut 18-inch alloys fill the arches properly, giving the car weight and attitude. These make a huge difference on a car this small. None of these options make it bigger, but it makes it feel intentional. The interior is where spec really matters, because this is where you actually live. The seats aren't leather, they're leatherette and Dynamica, which works for me. The Dynamica grips without being abrasive, and the leatherette looks, feels and smells like real leather, but it's easier to maintain and still looks new 5 years on. The steering wheel is exactly as it should be, with actual buttons and dials within easy reach of my thumbs. Climate controls are physical, the volume's a dial, both on the central console and on the wheel. Nothing here is trying too hard, it's just well judged. The boot is smallish, but it fits most things. This car is specced with handy hooks and a cargo net, and a false floor to hide even more stuff away. Now, the rear legroom isn't generous, let's be honest about that. I have to push the front seat back for my driving position, and space behind me disappears very quickly. But I'd rather the front of the car feels resolved and cohesive, rather than have thin seats and awkward proportions. Small cars are about prioritization, and this one prioritizes the driver and the front passenger. Tech is where a lot of cars age badly. Screens dominate and interfaces change. But this one feels settled. The central screen is large enough and beautifully incorporated into the dash. For me, Android Auto handles navigation and media. I was using Audi's nav for 3 years, but when I tried Android Auto, I never looked back. And then there's the Bang & Olufsen system, which came as standard with the Vorsprung trim. At normal volumes with other people in the car, it just lifts the experience, so it's clear and balanced. But when I'm on my own and I turn it up, it does so with control, not chaos. It's a far cry from my younger days of filling boots with subwoofers, chasing bass lines rather than audio quality. Then there's the auto parking, which I know is a gimmick, but I do use it sometimes when I'm feeling lazy. Let me show you, it's quite smart. I found a parking space over here. I just pull in. I'm not touching the wheel. I'm just controlling the brake and accelerator and the reverse and forward. It's telling me to select forward. That's it. It's not as good at parking as I am, but it's cool nonetheless. Under the bonnet, there's a 1.5 litre turbo with 150 horsepower. That's fine for a car of this size. I'll often see much bigger Audis on the road, such as Q3s or even Q5s, with the same sized engine. And those would be really underpowered and not pleasant to drive. But at about 1200 kilos, this definitely isn't. The sport suspension is firmer than on other A1 models, and you feel it in London on the speed bumps. But in the corners, it does keep the car feeling firm and planted. The 7-speed Astronic gearbox adapts well to how you drive. When I put it into efficiency mode, it's calm, slow and controlled, which is perfect for getting me out of trouble in London's 20-mile-an-hour zones. In dynamic mode, it sharpens up properly and is actually quite fun to drive. The gas pedal sharpens up and the steering feels heavier. And to take it a step further, on the countryside twisties, I occasionally play with the flappy paddles, which I know is completely unnecessary. In the 5 and a bit years I've owned this car, it's done just over 22,000 miles. It's lived in London, seen speed bumps, tight parking, and the odd high curb. And it still feels modern, it still feels well built, and it still feels like it was configured with intent. I think that's what good spec does, it stretches the life of the car. The only thing I replaced myself were the standard Bridgestones that Audi usually fit onto these. I opted for a set of 4 Pirelli P0s a few months ago when I found a great deal. But apart from that, it's just stock and doesn't need anything extra. So why do I love my little A1? It isn't the fastest, it isn't the rarest, and it isn't the most dramatic. But it's proof that when something is thought through properly, when the right boxes are ticked for the right reasons, even a small car can feel resolved. And over 5 years later, that still matters. And I plan to keep this car for many more years, even after I upgrade to that 911 at some point.